Hey everyone, Cerebral Tackle back with you again today. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. If you could, please like, share, subscribe real quick before we get started. I've got one of my most favorite trout rigs to show you today, and I think you're going to like it. As most anyone who's ever fished for trout before will know, the Berkley powerbait, the good old doe trout bait, is awesome stuff. Scientifically proven to catch fish, and that's not just a claim, they make it so. Now the rig I'm going to show you today is simple and very effective, and no, I did not invent it. Our friends over in Europe did. They call it the Ducky Rig. It's a very unique presentation that not a lot of fish here in the United States have seen. And trust me, when they see it, they're going to want to eat it. First, we're going to talk about what you need for the rig. First, you're going to need to take about a foot or so to a foot and a half of your line and create a leader. Now, if you're using the Palomar knot, make sure to attach it to your swivel first and even your hook before tying it to your main line. Why? You can't do so without those two steps first. Otherwise, you'll be trying to thread your whole freaking rod and reel through your loop to create your Palomar. So, as you see here, we have our swivel right there. Sorry, the focus is just horrible on this thing. And we've got a little red number 10 Gamakatsu octopus down here as our hook. Okay, we've got, it's hard to see on camera, but we've got about, a foot and a half or so there. Now, above that swivel is just important. I've got a 1/16 of an ounce bullet weight and a red bead. Now what that red bead does is it protects the knot at the top of your swivel going to your main line from the constant beating of that weight against it. So that little red bead is your protection. Now I'll tell you a secret. Some streams, trout are very color visibly driven as far as bright colors. So sometimes that red bead will even get smacked if they think it's a salmon egg. In other places, however, the additional color will spook them. So I'm going to give you a very interesting alternative. There's a popular JDM bass brand out there called Zappu. Now Zappu makes these chain cushion beads. As you see, chain because they're all kind of chained together there. What happens is you pluck one off, and I'm going to try to get on camera, although it's going to be hard. And there's little holes there in them. Probably very difficult to see, but little holes. Now what you'll do is you'll pluck one off, run it up your line, use one of these as your bead. Yeah, they're a bit more difficult to find. You can find them at Tackle Warehouse and hook up tackle and places like that, yeah. And they're a bit more expensive than your small little plastic craft beads. However, being the fact that they're smaller and softer, they don't have that same hard clanking that the plastic beads will against the weight. They're a lot more subtle. So, in streams where that hard plastic bright red bead may spook fish, these are a wonderful secret weapon and way to go. One of my favorite products out there. So, to recap, we have our main line up here. We have our weight, our bead, protecting our knot, our swivel. And then we have about a foot of line here. Nice fluorocarbon, Seaguar by the way. Attached to that little red number 10 octopus hook. Now, let me show you how to rig this bad boy now that you've got your setup all tied on and ready to go. Now what's so different about the Ducky Rig, and the reason why you're going to need that swivel and that leader, the reason that gear is so important, is because you're going to turn your power bait into a spoon, a freaking trout spoon. Let me show you. What you're going to do is you're going to pinch you off a couple of little balls of power bait here. And I say a couple because it's easier to conceal the hook this particular way. You can pinch you off a couple of balls of the same color, or you can mix and match with whatever color you want out of these Berkley powerbait. You can create some crazy combinations. So here, I have a little ball of yellow. Here, I have our little rainbow sherbet powerbait trout nibble as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two little pinched off balls there, and I'm going to sandwich it, the hook that is, in between the two. So I'm going to stick my hook in there like so. Now I'm going to take this other ball here. So now you've got them smushed between your two balls of power bait there. Once you get those good and smashed in there, you're going to take and you're going to pinch them together good. And then once you've got them good and kind of mixed, kneaded together, you're going to take, you're going to leave just a little pinch up here at the top to protect your line. Then you're going to come underneath that and roll it in your fingers. And you're going to kind of push it out there. Then when you get towards the end here, you're going to flatten it just a touch. And you're going to create a little bend here in the tail. Doesn't have to be much. Now, you've got your hook right about here. And you're going to take, and you're just, like I said, you're just going to bend it up and create kind of a little ducktail, a little paddle there. Now I know that doesn't look like much, but you've got your line protected up here, your hook's in this fatter midsection here, and then here towards the end you just have that kind of little cupped tail. Now you're going to look at it and say, man, that's not going to hold together well. It will. What you have to do first is you have to take and dip it in the water before your first cast for 30 seconds, because dipping your power bait in the water before throwing it is always recommended. What that does is it helps solidify your bait up, and it'll harden it and toss it off the line whenever you cast it. It'll firm it up good. Anyway, so that's why they call it the Ducky Rig, because it kind of resembles a bit of a ducktail, a little paddle tail there at the end. Now, what happens is after you've dipped it in water and you cast it, that weight at the top of your leader is going to help keep your bait down, because power bait floats. Remember that. Now it's going to come through the water. That little ducktail is going to catch water and it's going to spin. Just rotate through, become like a little spoon. The weight will keep you down. That swivel, your swivel there, that's going to keep you from getting your line all twisted. Hence the reason why the gear is so important. You want that weight, that bead, that swivel about a foot above your hook. That way you can get that torque. It'll sit there and spin. Your line won't get twisted, but enough depth that it keeps your bait down. You can slowly retrieve it and swim it back to you and just let it paddle, paddle, paddle. You can pause it, rest it on the bottom, let it float up and let the current itself kind of do the trick. Or if you're in a small pond or a small pool, just do that slow retrieve. Either way, what you've done is you've turned your power bait into a ducky rig, into a nice little spoon. Now, I don't make the prettiest ducky rigs in the world. There's guys out there, and you'll be able to view some of this on some of these other channels that do it a lot better than I do. And like I said, I don't claim to have made it, but that's just kind of it. You can sit there and mold it and mess with it, because it's Play-Doh for trout, right? But right here is basically what it looks like. Again, you don't want to get it too thin up here at where the line comes up out here up at the front, because if you do, your line will just pull through and it'll cut and remove all the bait off your line. You don't want to do that. So don't get it too thin up there. Leave a little bit, just a little bit of thickness, kind of padding up there at the nose to protect your line. Come back, your hook's right there in the midsection. You got your little paddle tail. That is a ducky rig. Might be an ugly ducky rig, but a ducky rig nonetheless. And my ugly ducky rigs have caught plenty of fish, so they will for you too. And when you play with it, the more you use it, the more you'll get a hang of it. I just don't get the chance to trout fish as much as I'd like to. But let me tell you, ducky rig will catch it. So anyway, there it is. Little known secret here in the United States, the ducky rig. So experiment, get you some Berkley power bait. If you aren't familiar with Berkley power bait, there's a jar right there in yellow. Berkley power bait. I think they are just straight yellow. They also have like a corn and a cheese, but this is just straight yellow Berkley power bait. Get it a little bit better there for the camera. Let me tell you, Berkley's been around for a long time. They have a lot of scientific engineering to their baits, especially their earlier stuff. And this trout power bait has been around for a very long time and is very proven. Anyway, pick you up some Berkley power bait. Grab you a nice little bullet weight swivel bead. Tie you up a ducky rig. Get out there, catch you some trout. And thank you so much for joining us. Keep it wet.